morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christelle Rinn, and I'm the COO here at HRLocker. For today's webinar, we're delighted to have Margaret Cox with us today from ICE Group. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is flexible working, and specifically the 4-day work week. So it's very topical at the moment. A lot of companies are looking at how do they change the work week, how do they make people more productive, how do they attract people into their company. But we're going to go through ICE Group. We're one of, I think, the first company in Ireland to put in a 4-day work week. So hopefully Margaret is going to answer all our questions in regards to how did they do it, what did they learn from it, and how it's affected the culture, and I suppose, you know, how does it actually work in reality. As always, we have the questions and answers section here in the webinar. So at any stage, if anybody has any questions, please pop a question into the chat, and I'll either ask Margaret mid-flow to answer the question, or we'll leave them till the end of it. So Margaret, we're just delighted to have you with us today. I really appreciate you taking out the time and getting to chat to us. But Margaret, if you maybe want to go through, I suppose, who ICE Group are.
Thanks, Christelle, and look, thanks a million to yourself and to Jenny for setting this up and for inviting us along. We're delighted to be here and to talk about the ICE Group. I'll probably call it ICE Group, and we talked about that earlier on about I'm old-fashioned, and the company, we used to call it ICE Group, but now we are known by ICE Group because that's what our clients call us. But yeah, ICE Group is a recruitment, training and outsourced supplier of HR and payroll services. And we've been in business now almost 50 years. I wasn't here all of the 50 years, but I've been here for a lot. And we have offices in Galway, Limerick, Sligo. We have a satellite office in Sydney and in Dublin, because we do some overseas recruitment for nurses and healthcare workers, sending them to Australia and then taking them home from Australia when they're ready to come back to Ireland. But that's ICE Group. Probably in a nutshell.
Super. So, Margaret, I suppose the burning question is, you know, with the 4-day work week, it's a huge step to take that into to take that into your company. I know a lot of people are talking about flexible working, and usually when we're talking about flexible working, we're thinking that people might start at 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that. But going to a 4-day work week, I suppose, why did you guys consider it?
Yes, Christian, and I suppose, look, that's a really good question. I mean, the really important thing for anybody thinking about a 4-day work week is to be really clear about their why. Why are they doing it? What's their plan? Why do they want to do it? And until a company has clarity in relation to the why, they're never going to make it successful. So I would say to people, okay, why is it that you want to do it? The reason we wanted to do it was very simple. We were preparing in our 4-year plan, 2020 to 2024. We were looking at that at the end of 2018 and into 2019. And our vision was to become a world-class organisation that inspired others. It wasn't just enough to be world class, we wanted to inspire other organisations to copy us. And what we realised was it's all about our people. I mean, we always knew that, but if we really wanted to bring us to the next level, we needed to work on our people. And the job that we do is about changing lives. We change the lives of the people we place in jobs. We change the lives of people we train. We change the lives of the companies, the people who work in the companies where we place people. So we're changing lives all the time, and we wanted to change the lives of the people who worked for us, because our business is all about people. And so we decided to look at having a couple of options and looked at some of the examples from around the world. The most common one that people talk about is the Andrew Barnes experience with Perpetual Guardian. He had just done his trial and implemented the 4-day week. And we decided to look at it as for our organisation and see, is that something that we could actually do? Could we make it work in our organisation? And initially, I have to say, I was the skeptic. I thought that'll never work. We work too hard in ICE Group. You know, it'll never work to go to a 4-day week. So what we decided to do was we would do a trial and see, could we make it work? We did a lot of planning, a lot of sort of thinking through how we were going to do it, thinking through the communication of it and so on like that. And with the trial, we started the trial on the 1st of July 2019, and we did it for 6 months to give it a fair, to give it a proper chance of being successful. Because the one thing that's really important, and again, this is why you need to understand your why. If you go into this and it fails, a lot of people who work with you will be very disappointed. So you want to give it every single chance of success. And that's what we did with our 6-month trial. And then we went 100% live on the 1st of January 2020. And we've continued with it since then. So we've had all of 2020 and all of 2021, and now we're into 2022. So we're nearly at 3 years. When we come to July of this year, we'll be 3 years on a 4-day week.
Wow, and I think that you're right, is that a lot of companies that I'm talking to in regards to flexible working and 4-day week, they're jumping at something because they're looking for a benefit to attract talent. Yes. And I think, I don't know, would you agree, Margaret, that's not a good enough why? You need to actually have it that it's like you're trying to give time back, or you're trying to optimize the your time or your employees' time. But one of the things we spoke about, Margaret, and is that the importance of it, of your why being adapted by everybody, because like you said, is that a lot of employees are going to be really disappointed if that's not something, if it doesn't work after 2 weeks, right? And you decide you're just going to pull the plug, because you need to get your employees on board and invested, right?
That's right, yeah. So I suppose what you need to think about then is, once you're clear on your why, and that's, we were clear on our why, it was part of our strategic vision, it was part of where we wanted to go. We then, and lots of people can have visions and strategies, but we needed to look at our culture, and we needed to decide what kind of a model we were going to put in place. So the question was, are we going to work 4 days and close the 5th day? How are we going to manage the business through this, through the trial, and then obviously into the future? And I suppose it's always, and I'm sure that all of the people who are listening to us this morning, at the end of the day, we all run businesses. We're not charities insofar as we don't need to make a profit. So we were very open with our employees and with the staff. I mean, we were very much as a team working together to try and make this work. We were going for the All-Ireland Cup. We wanted to be raising that cup in Croke Park at the end of the trial, and our cup was the 4-day week. So we needed to figure out how it would actually work. So we went for what we're calling a fixed flexibility model. And our model is you work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then everybody actually has a 3-day weekend. And for us, we believed in our organisation that the 3-day weekend was the most important thing in this model. The reason for that is we believed that everybody gets their energy back at the weekends. If you have a 3-day weekend, we know what bank holiday weekends are like. We come back into work full of energy, full of enthusiasm, and very, very happy after the bank holiday weekend. We've gotten our mojo back, we've gotten our energy back. So our model is a 3-day weekend model, and you work 4 days and you're off for 3. And you're either off on the Friday or off on the Monday, but the business continues over those 5 days. So that was the fixed flexibility model. And then we obviously, it wasn't squeezing 5 days into 4. We actually were reducing our hours. And so we worked a 39-hour week before the 4-day week trial, and we reduced that to a 36-hour week. So we did 4 9-hour days, and then everybody has their, what we call actually our genius day. So your genius day is either Friday or Monday, and that's your day to spend as you wish, to bake cakes at home, to go shopping, to spend time with the kids, to go to the golf club, to go back to college, whatever it is that you might want to do on your genius day. But it is really important to be clear, and then so that your employees are clear as well what the ask is. So the ask is that you're going to do 100% of the output, you're going to get 100% of the pay, but you're only going to be working over 4 days. So that was the concept and the idea that we had in terms of how we would make it work.
And I'm just going to interject just for one moment, is that the questions and answers don't seem to be working on Teams for the moment. So if anybody has any questions, if you can email them to support@HRLocker.com, and we'll pick them up there if anybody has any burning questions. So that's support@HRLocker.com. One of the things, Margaret, I'm just going to pick up with it's an interesting. So it all comes down to communication, right? And what you're talking to your employees and what their expectations are. But the key thing is you're not just giving people a day off. It is, you know, you're still expecting the same workload from people. I suppose so. You know, how did you really go about implementing it?
Okay, so yeah, and you're right. Yeah, it's absolutely key to have a very tight team working on the implementation. Before we even went to the trial, we had a group of trusted individuals we pulled together. We call them the pessimist committee, and their job was to look at everything that we did. Now, this is before we went to the 4-day week at all. Everything that we did, how would that translate from a 5-day to a 4-day? And what were the things that we needed to consider? And then how were we going to communicate? What were the answers we were going to come up with? And how were we going to communicate that to our staff, to our customers, and to everybody that we had interactions with, our suppliers and so on like that. So we knew that we needed to have certain things in place before we went into the trial. And then in the trial itself, we worked with everybody. What is it that you need to do? Do you need to do cross-training? In fact, it's actually very interesting. One of the first things that we decided we needed to do was to replace our old-fashioned tracking system in terms of time and attendance and HR management. And we went to you guys. And we became HRLocker customers, and because it was important to find where there is technology that you can use to save time, effort, and to make things better. You needed to look at the investment in that technology, and it was because of investment in technology, things like HRLocker, then it became Microsoft Teams, and various other labour-saving pieces of technology, things like Trello and so on like that, that we were in a position to save time for people. So we wanted to see how we could, with the team, bring the workload back to be completed in those 4 days. And that's what our objective was. So we had a fairly good idea of what we were going to do before we went into the trial. And then we spent 6 months working through business unit by business unit, how we were actually going to do our job. We had to decide simple things like who's going to work on Monday, who's going to work on Friday. How are we going to transfer? What are we going to say to the client on a Friday if they ring and the person they normally talk to is not working on a Friday? Do we expect the person that is working on a Friday to be able to deal with the client? And then what does that mean? What does that look like? Did we have to do cross-training? Did we have to become better at keeping all of our notes on our systems? So on our recruitment system, we needed to make sure that if I talked to my client on Thursday evening and I was away then until Monday, that I'd have left notes about that. Now, Microsoft Teams, because of the pandemic and our quick move into that, became invaluable in that, because you'd leave your notes on Teams for your co-workers and everybody knew what was happening. So Thursday people left notes for Friday, the Friday people left notes for the people coming back in on Monday again. So communication was really, really important. And so we also then as well needed to understand, well, what are our key success factors? You know, what do we need to do to get the output that we need to still maintain? Because we had to continue to deliver our guarantee to our customers, which is 100% customer satisfaction. So what's important in that? So if I take an example, one key success factor to us placing jobs, and at the moment we're on a big contract, we're placing 16 to 20 people a week with one particular client. Well, the key success factor in that is the number of applications that we get in. So it's no use getting to the end of the week and realizing, oh, we didn't have enough applications. We needed to know that as we work through each day, have we enough applications coming in today? The next day, have we enough applications? So we identify things like our key success factors. And then as we would do a review at the end of the week, we looked at our key performance indicators and we watched for trends. You know, were things going up or were they going down or were they flatlining? Because you needed to constantly be producing in order to deliver that satisfaction that I spoke about. So if we think about 100% customer satisfaction was our goal, 4 days a week was what everybody wanted to work, then what do we actually need to do and what changes did we need to make? So again, as I suppose a simple exercise, you know the way we always set up meetings in our calendars for an hour. And we filled the hour, even though we might have done 20 minutes of work. But we became rigid about managing our meetings. We became better at only calling meetings when they were supposed to be called. B, making sure that the right people were at the meeting, not just every Tom, Dick and Harry for the sake of bringing them into the meeting so they wouldn't feel left out, and that was not what we needed to do. What we needed to do was have an agenda, know that we needed to have a meeting, have the right people there. And then we said, and no meeting should go over 30 minutes. And if it does, then we need to have a separate meeting. Now, there are times for various planning meetings or reviews at the end of a quarter, you may have longer meetings, but in general, the day-to-day meetings were going to be 30 minutes or indeed less. We also started to have stand-up meetings in the days before the pandemic. Now that was when we'd come into the office and we would stand up, because your meetings get really quicker if you're standing up as opposed to sitting on the chairs and lying over the table and stuff like that. So we had a lot of stand-up meetings. We brought very focused stand-up meetings and huddles, using some of those lean green concepts. So we would have huddles on a daily basis within the teams, but again, very focused. What is on the plan for today? What do we need to do? What do we need to get done by the end of the day? And we created a language of success around that. I mentioned already the Genius Day. So the Genius Day was the day that you were off. And that was great. You could talk to people when you go, what did you do on your Genius Day? It continued that feeling of wellness, of happiness, of energy and enthusiasm and focus. We had other languages. We talked about our 4-day week behaviours, because again, I mentioned you do have to change your culture. So in terms of your culture, if it was a 5-day week culture and things could wait until a Friday afternoon to be finished, well, Friday afternoon now became a Thursday afternoon, and you needed to get things done by a Thursday, and you needed to make sure that you did the handover properly, that you communicated. So we had a lot of 4-day week behaviours, and we called them out as 4-day week behaviours. We also understood that it was really important to have focus. Because you come in the mornings and it could take you half an hour to get your head around, oh, what am I going to do today? Well, we don't have half an hour in a 4-day week to figure out what am I going to do today. So you need to spend that 5 minutes before you go home in the evening. And this isn't new stuff. This isn't rocket science. This is the stuff we should have been doing in our 5-day week, and we would have been absolutely brilliant. But we learned and we invested in changing our behaviours and our culture to make the 4-day week work. You checked with what you were doing in the evening before you went home. Is everything done? What am I planning for tomorrow? Do I need to communicate with anybody? How is that going to look like? And then again, at the end of the week, either on your Thursday or your Friday, depending on when your end of the week was, making sure that you handed that over in a really, really nice box, or on Teams as it is now, to your co-workers. So we eliminated the time wasters in the organisation. We made sure that everything had a purpose, everybody was clear about the purpose, and everybody was working together, because the prize of a 4-day week, and I suppose I haven't even really said that so much, working 4 days and being off in our case for 3 days at the weekend is absolutely super. I was telling somebody the other day, not that I drink too much wine, but you get a lot of glass bottles, sauces in glass bottles, but I used to hate going to the bottle bank on a Saturday or a Sunday. I really thought, this is such a pain on my weekends to have to go and do that rotten job. It was a job I hated doing. Now my 3-day weekend, I can do that. It doesn't matter what day, because I know I have 2 other days that I don't have to do that mundane, horrible jobs. I used to, the shopping, going to the supermarket did my head in, and I try to find the best times to go to the supermarket when the least amount of people are there, but you still wanted to have all the freshest produce and vegetables available to you. Now I can plan that over 3 days, not over 2 days. But I can also do the fun stuff like going for a walk. I took up sea swimming during COVID. I can now go for a swim over the weekend, on whatever day I please, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or if I work Saturday, Sunday, if I'm off Saturday, Sunday and Monday, I can do it over those 3 days. And that's what people in the organisation did. I mean, that was just me. Other people got, so one of the guys in the organisation has told me that his golf handicap has come down by 3. our marketing manager, Tom, went back to college in Limerick, and he got an additional qualification in his area of expertise, marketing and digital media. Brianne, our HR manager, who I'm sure you guys know because she's the contact for HRLocker and our system, she's gone back to do her master's. That's 3 kids, a really, really busy job, and to go back to do our master's. So the prize of what you have is so valuable that you're really focused, you're very energized, but most of all, you're very happy in terms of the 4-day week.
Margaret, do you think, in terms of culture you mentioned there, do you think that the 4-day work, this is a kind of double-barreled question, is do you think your culture allowed a 4-day work week? And also, do you think the 4-day work week has changed your culture?
That's a really interesting question, Christelle, and culture is what it's all about. I don't know, did we have the culture? I mean, I would have always thought we were a very innovative company. I would always thought we were very agile and dynamic before we went down the 4-day week route. And I would have said to you, it's the best company in the world to work in. Our people are fantastic. They work really, really hard. But the company today and the culture today is so much different to what it was pre-moving into the 4-day week. And I think that's really, really important. And you'll also be familiar with, it's really hard to change the culture in an organisation, and it can take a long time. Many organisations struggle with this. You know, they know that they need to change the culture, but they're on a journey and they're looking at 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 years before the culture really starts to change. In our case, because the move that we made from the 5-day week to the 4-day week was so huge, culture changed immediately. People's mindsets changed. We knew we needed to do stuff differently. We knew we needed to be on our game all of the time, and we wanted to be committed to being successful. And again, it comes back to it was that sharing of the prize. In many organisations, you can talk about 100% customer satisfaction. And it's all about the customer. Well, in our case, it's 100% customer satisfaction, but it's a 4-day week. So it's about us all together, the customers, the staff, the management, everybody that we work with. And I think that was a key change in the culture. It became more about all of us together, focused on the commerciality of the goal, the you know, keeping the business profitable, keeping our productivity up, and making sure that we could sustain the 4-day week for the future and going forward. I'm not sure if that answers your question. I mean, no, it does. Back to me if I'm not making sense.
You know, I have a couple of questions here as well that have come in. We might pop them in. And again, anybody who's got any questions, if they send them on to support@hrlocker.com. So I was actually thinking of this as well, Margaret. So I have a question from Jill that either if you're off on a Monday, i.e. the business, so if you're that's your day off, your 3-day weekend, what happens on a bank holiday? Do you get a day? Do those people get a day back, or is it just the bank holiday is your day off?
So on the week that there's bank holiday, and this is and really important actually where this came from. When we were working through the trial, people said, okay, we can deliver 100% productivity, and we can deliver 100% customer satisfaction, but we can't go from a 39-hour week to a 32-hour week and still do those things. Even in the week with the bank holiday, we can't go down to a 3-day week and still deliver 100% customer satisfaction. Exactly. So what we do in a bank holiday, everybody works the 4 days. So for some people who would have been off on the Monday, they're off on the Monday anyway. And for some people who would have been off on the Friday, they're off on the Monday instead. So it's every week is a 4-day week, or every weekend is a 3-day weekend.
Okay, and then this is kind of a follow-on question from somebody else's then. So you spoke about the Monday to Thursday that some people work, and then the Tuesday to Friday. Do people swap that, or do they sign up to that, or how do you manage that? Is it kind of, is that in their contract change, or how?
It's more of a process. So in general, people don't change unless there's a business reason for them to change. Sometimes they will change, but in general you get used to your work pattern. What we did agree with all of the staff, again, this was agreed during the trial, is if 2 people always wanted to be off on the Monday in the one business area or in the one business unit, as we call it, then they would do it at 3 months at a time. So person 1, Margaret, might do the first 3 months, Tom might do the second 3 months, Margaret would do it back again. So we would rotate it like that, to be very fair and equitable. But at the end of the day, we haven't had a challenge around that. Everybody's really happy, but you can't have a situation where you're swapping over and back all of the time so that you're getting a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, a 4-day weekend, every couple of weeks, because that takes away from, if you like, the model and how it works for the business and how it works for the people getting their work done and getting the productivity over the line. And again, as I said to you, look, as an organisation, we all had to be very honest with each other and say, look, we've got to continue to deliver to our customers. We've got to maintain our profitability, because if that starts to slide, then you start to look at what kind of initiatives do you have to do to bring that back up again. And we certainly don't want to lose our 3-day weekend in Ice Group.
And I think that that's the key, isn't it? That yes, it's a great idea, and I mean, I think it's something that that an individual employee will want. However, obviously business needs have to come into account as well. So, you know, you can't just close the door on a Friday and expect your customers to understand why you no longer are contactable on a Friday, right? So business needs have to come through. I have 2 more questions before we move on, Margaret. Is I think you've kind of covered this. Is number 1, does pay stay the same? And in terms of holidays entitlements, do they just go back to if they had 20 days, do they now have 16 days, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly, Christelle. So pay stays the same. It's 100% productivity, 100% pay, 4 days a week. Holidays stay the same but look different, because in an ordinary month, in an ordinary year, you have 4 weeks off. So that's 4 weeks of 5 days, which is 20. On the 4-day week, it's 4 weeks of 4 days, which is 16. So it's 16 days, but it's still 4 weeks, because again, every week you're getting that extra day off.
Yeah, and I think, and sorry, I said that was my last question, but I have one more. Is the other thing we actually spoke about was, so it's the 180-100 is what you've gone to now. So it's 36 hours over your 4 days.
Yes. Yeah. So that wasn't quite a 20% reduction, and that's a really, so some organizations are in a position to do it. I mentioned that we were a very dynamic, hard-working organisation before we went into the 4-day week. And when we worked through the trial, it was the people who were working with us that said, it was all of the staff saying, there's no way we could go back to a 32-hour week, 4 8-hour days, and still get everything done. It's too much of a jump. We do want to get there, and you know, I would imagine if COVID hadn't come and the pandemic hadn't come for the last 2 years, we would probably certainly be reduced down to 8.5-hour days at this stage, from the 9-hour days. Our plan was at the beginning of the process that we would start to reduce our working day maybe by 15 minutes every quarter or every half year and so on like that. So now that the pandemic, please God, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and we need to look at that as an organisation, find ways of saving that 15 minutes in a day, embedding that into the work practices, and then at the next stage finding another 15 minutes and so on like that in the day. But that was a team decision. It wasn't something that was top down. It actually was a bottom up decision from everybody.
And it's interesting you're saying from the bottom up side of it, because I had we did a podcast with Megan Keeney Anderson, formerly from HubSpot and now Wonderlust Group, in regards to it. And when I spoke to her offline, I said to her, do you actually really not work the 5 days? I mean, do you just do a little bit of work on that day? And she was like, no, it's really important that top down embraces that it's a 4-day work week, and that we're not, when you're off on that Friday or the Monday, whichever it is, that you're not online, right? So, or else it's not going to work.
That's right.
Yeah, and the same for yourselves, Margaret?
Yeah, so and that was a brilliant podcast, by the way, Christelle. I listened to it. I thought Megan was brilliant. I was really, really impressed by it. So I really enjoyed it. And she's absolutely right. Um, I think that you need to be prepared. There will be occasions when you may have to work on your Genius Day. So you need a system that recognizes that. And our system that recognizes that is we log. If there's a reason for you to work on your Genius Day or a requirement, or you get a phone call, we log it. The person who calls you needs to log it, you need to log it, and then we need to record what it was about. And the reason we do that log, or that Genius Day log, interruption log, is we need to change something so it doesn't happen again. Now look at, you know, if there was a hurricane coming in on a Friday and something happened, and it might be all hands on deck on the Friday because everybody has to help out. So there are always the exceptions, but they have to be exceptions. And then once the exceptions happen, if they're never going to happen again, you don't need to worry about it. But if the exception starts to happen every week, you need to make sure that you're going to deal with it, because it's not fair. You know, if I promise you and the organization promises you 4 days and a Genius Day, well, then that's what we need to deliver, because in return, you've promised me 100% productivity. And you need your energy, and you need your well-being, and you need your happiness to come back into work and work really focused for the 4 days that you're here. So you have the focus on your 4 days that you're at work, and you have your focus on your 3 days of your weekend.
And what I love the most, Margaret, is when I'm listening to you talking, is that how important it is to get that language.
Yes.
Hearing you say the Genius Day, the Genius Day interruptions, so then at least you have a common language that everybody, I suppose they get bought into the process, or you know, that I suppose it gives them a way to communicate to each other. But in terms of your own success, I suppose it's been 2 years now almost that it's in, Margaret. What do you think is the outcomes in terms of either just culture or productivity, or, you know, presume it's something you're going to continue with? So.
Yeah. I think they'd come after me with a gun if we said, actually, we're going back to 5 days. There's a couple of things actually that's really important to bear in mind, Krista. You've constantly got to be on your guard that you're not slipping back. That's the first thing. So, you know, you set your baseline before you go in, and you're measuring to your baseline. We actually, over the 2 years, have increased productivity. So we went up to, at one stage, a 27% increase in productivity. Our profitability, our turnover, and our business has increased substantially. Our absenteeism and attrition have all reduced. In the first 6 months, in fairness, which was really interesting, we had 1 case of unplanned single day absence, and that's a huge thing. But people are better, and you know, you also then don't need people taking time off to go to the NCT or taking time off to go to the doctor. We arrange all of that in general, if we can, on our Genius Day, so it's less interruptions. So better attendance in the office, better productivity, reduced absenteeism and attrition. So we had less people leaving the organisation. So our employee retention went up. Now we've seen a change, and this is a really interesting sort of conversation probably for another day. We've seen a change in terms of the big resignation that everybody's talking about. We've seen some people leave our organisations that I wouldn't have expected to leave, but they've moved to the public sector. I mean, you'll probably be aware, and I'm sure lots of our listeners are aware, that there's been a lot of recruitment in the public sector. So we've lost probably about 5 or 6 people over the last 2 years to jobs in the public sector. And it's very difficult in a private organisation to compete with the public sector role. So retention is important, but you've also got to be aware of who are your competitors in that space.
I wonder, Margaret, with the public sector, do those people, were they looking for jobs in the public sector for years, probably?
Yeah, and I think the pandemic as well, you know, for many organisations during the pandemic, now it didn't happen to us, we continued to work all the way through, but there was always the worry, will the business be sustainable? Yeah. Will my job be here? And you know, they could see their friends and colleagues who were in the public sector, their job was there regardless. their salary was paid regardless. So it's a very different, you know, that certainty that you have in the public sector is very different to the certainty that you have no matter how successful your business is in the private sector. It's a different feeling. So I like to think that they had always wanted to get into the public sector. There are lots of good benefits there, and pension and so on like that. Really good pension and that kind of thing. So there was that. The other thing that's really important though, and this is I suppose what I'm most probably proud of, our wellness measures went up by 33%. So that everybody felt happier at home, happier at work. They felt better able to deal with stress, anxiety. And I think that was one of the reasons that we weathered the pandemic so well in our organisation, and we did. And a huge shout out to the team in ICE Group all over the country. And we really came out and showed up for the team during the pandemic, and I was so proud of us all. And I think that it was because we had our 3-day weekends. And we had a situation where people were able to finish on the Thursday or the Friday, re-energize, get over the bad news constantly coming at us, and be ready and better able to face the week when they came back in on the Monday or Tuesday. So lots of great outcomes. And, you know, I mentioned Brianne, our HR manager who's doing her master's, Tom, who went back to college, and Darren, who improved his golf handicap, and Tracy, who gets to spend, you know, days with her kids that she gets to bring them to school on a Friday, and she never got to bring them to school before because her husband used to do the school drop-offs, but now she gets to do it on a Friday. So lots of good stories there. There's some of our younger people have done lots of travel. I mean, Lourdes tells a story about before the pandemic, she lives in Ennis and she'll be sort of packing her bag on a Thursday evening and off to some capital city with Ryanair from Shannon on a Friday morning, you know. So lots of great stories from people about how they were able to, I suppose, improve their lives.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with you, Margaret. Like the last 2 years, I think companies either had to kind of show up or, you know, they were going to lose people. And I think that's where the great resignation has really come from. You know, even before, I think I'm still suffering from PTSD in terms of homeschooling for the children. I really can't go back to that again. But in terms of, I didn't have the support from work in regards to, you know, kids coming in if I was on a Zoom call, or guys, I've just got to sit down and do this hour of homework with the kids. I can really understand how people at this stage are now looking at other jobs because they just didn't get the support the last 2 years, which I definitely can see is stressful for people. So I have a number of questions here for you, Margaret. You'd be delighted to know.
Okay,
great. So the first one I have here is, was anybody very resistant to the 4-day work week, and did you have to do some convincing, or was everybody on board?
Gosh, nobody was resistant. We have had 1 or 2 people who have thought about going back to the 5 days again. But when we worked through what the issues were and we made some adjustments, it was about the logistics of the 4-day week. So we made some, they didn't really want to give up the 4-day week, but they needed to find a way of making it happen logistically for them. So in general, no resistance, a lot of apprehension. I mean, in all honesty, and that's why communication is really important. There was a lot of apprehension about, will I actually be able to get my job done? We had to change the behaviours, and I mentioned that already, you know, and again, we have a name on them. You know, we had to change the 5-day work behaviours to 4-day work behaviours. Yeah. And we needed to give people, we needed to empower them with the language around saying to their colleagues and friends, gosh, I need some focus time here now. We actually have a little stick character where what people can put we have a stick character that people can put on their desk. And basically it says, don't interrupt me, I am too busy. You know, I'm working on this, I want to give it my entire focus, because we work in an open plan office. So we've had to introduce things like that. So to answer the question, no resistance, a need for a little bit of thinking through things that were getting in people's ways. But at the end of the day, I mean, one of the things that we changed, and this is important for organisations looking at implementing it, you've got to constantly be thinking things through. So we wanted to make sure that after we went live on the 1st of January 2020, after our 6-month trial, that any new hires would know actually what's expected in a 5-day week. So we changed our recruitment practice. When you got recruited from 2020 into ICE Group, you spent your first 6 months, your probation, working a 5-day week. And then once you'd satisfactorily completed your probation, you could apply to get on the 4-day week program or the 3-day weekend. So everybody is dying to get through the probation. Everybody is absolutely excited to move on to the 3-day weekend. And so I would think it's actually opposite to resistance. It's why can't my probation go quicker? I want to get onto that 3-day weekend.
And then I kind of have 2 questions that are pretty related to that. Is how did you manage the cost of reducing so let me read this out again. May I inquire how you manage the cost of reducing the working week from 39 hours to 36? Did the company absorb the cost and still afford your team the same? So we've spoken about remuneration and reduction, but I think, how did you focus on getting that 39 hours down to 36? Is it purely just meetings, or was it just down to focusing on how people manage their time?
Look, it was meetings. Again, if you cut meetings down from an hour to 30 minutes, you're saving you're saving a half hour. If you plan better, if you go in focused, like if you want to have what we call the soft chat at a meeting, you get there 2 minutes before the meeting starts. You don't come into the meeting at 11, do soft chat for 5-10 minutes. How did you get on last night? Were you out at the weekend? What's happening in your life? You get that soft chat doesn't happen in the meeting time. You get rid of that. But also, and I suppose this is a question I would throw back at people. The way that we work before we're going on holidays, when we're taking our 2 weeks holidays off, and we get, well, I used to get through a mountain.
3 weeks of work in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. Focus, 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 focus. So that's how we got down to the 36 hours, maintaining the productivity. And then there was no cost, because the wages stayed the same. So there was no reduction in what was being paid to people, but there was no additional cost because we didn't take on any more people. So there was no cost to worry about. There was actually savings as well, particularly for people in terms of commuting, 20% saving on their petrol or 20% saving on their bus fares. There was savings for employees as well in terms of not having to come into work on the 5th day. They didn't have to go across the road to be buying coffee because they were sitting at home in their own kitchen making their own coffee. So there was lots of savings, but from an organisation point of view, it didn't cost us anymore because we absolutely nailed, and I'm delighted with that, but we nailed the concept of the 100% productivity in the 4 days.
And probably long term, if it's a retention thing, so you're saving from a recruitment or a retention or kind of churn rate of keeping people as a cost saving. The other question then is, if somebody is looking for maybe a Wednesday off, can they all of a sudden do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or do you just tell them that they need to take a day off for that?
Yeah, depending on the situation. So somebody might need to take a Wednesday off for a hospital appointment.
Yeah.
And look, it's not their choice. They can't change it. We'll absolutely change. Somebody wants to take Wednesday off because they want to go to Dublin to the zoo for the day. Well, we'll say, okay, take a day off for your annual leave. We try to keep the team working on their work patterns wherever possible. But again, look at, from people, it is about being flexible, but you've got to manage that flexibility as well, because there is flexibility in the 4-day week. You come in, you do your 4 days, and then you have that flexibility of the 3-day weekend.
And I suppose, Margaret, one of the things I'm hearing from you is that the guys want to make it work, right? Your employees want to make it work, so they don't want to be coming to you every 5 minutes. Say, can I change my Tuesday to a Thursday? Can I change to the Friday that I'm going to be off this Wednesday? Is that okay? Or else it's just going to become an administration nightmare. So they understand that, I presume.
Exactly. And you know, no matter how great HRLocker is, and it's great, just to let you know that, it certainly wouldn't be.
The amount of requests coming in.
Yeah. Changing whatever. You don't want to do that. You're absolutely right, Christelle. You don't want to be doing that. And everybody agrees with that.
Yeah, exactly. I would presume that people, I presume it's a treat to get what do you say, call it a prize, and they want to hold on to that prize to make it work. So I'm just conscious of time, so I'm just going to go to the last two questions. Margaret, they're kind of both kind of similar. That's why I kind of left them till the end, is and that you might take this offline, I'm not sure, is how would a 4-day work week, do you think, work for construction companies? Do you think that a 4-day work week can work for outdoor companies, or do you think it's really just is it focused for that kind of office-based company?
I actually, and that's a really great question. I'm not sure who's in the audience there from a construction company, but I actually believe that a 4-day week can work for any organization. What you need to do is to talk to the people who are doing the work. So I'm thinking in construction, could you talk to the block layer? Now, this might seem very naive, and you know, I'm not an expert in construction, but I want to put the thought into your head. Could you talk to the block layer and say, how many more blocks can you lay in an hour if you didn't have to work on Friday? I talk to the electrician and say, how many light switches can you install or cabling can you lay? How much more can you do if you didn't have to work Friday? Could you get all of the work done over that you would normally get done in 5 days over 4 days? And what would you need to do to make that happen? So that's and again, this goes back to the why.
Yes.
You know, why would you want to do it? Is it about your people? Can you maintain your business at 100%? And then the question is, how are we going to do that? And bringing the people who are at the coalface into the equation in terms of the ideas. So for instance, I think about retail very often. You know, you'll often go into retail shops, and it does my head in, I have to say. I see two people behind the counter and they're chatting away. And you know, you could be standing there for 3 minutes before somebody turn around and say, can I help you? And so somebody might say, well, in a retail setting, if I could get better customer service, train my people better, I could maybe do with less people, and then spread them out over and give everybody a 4-day week. It might be the same in construction. I'm sure there are areas where it won't work, but I would suggest to people, because it's so great. I mean, it is an absolute wonderful life and lifestyle and work style to have. It is absolutely worth thinking about it, asking the question, challenging yourself. You have to look at the walls that are around you and say, what do we need to do differently to make this happen? When we were getting ready and when we made the announcement to the staff, we worked with an absolutely fabulous lady, Valerie Pierce. She's a friend of mine. I've known her for years and years and years. And she talks about problem solving and clear and critical thinking. And one of the things that I've learned from her so often is this phrase, and I drive them nuts in the office, absolutely nuts. They go, oh, here she goes again, she's on her little soapbox. But I say to people, turn no because into yes if. So what you want to do is, if you say, no, that will never work, well, then start to look at the reasons why you think it won't work and try to change those challenges, and turn no because into yes if. So it won't work because, well, it might work if we do this. So you're changing the mindset and you're changing the way things are happening. So that would be my suggestion to the construction company. That would be my suggestion indeed to any company. Maybe ask the question from the people at the coalface, how will it actually work? So what's really important as well, I think, is looking at the barriers, maybe figuring out what barriers are there and finding the barriers, and then seeing, can you do something about the barrier? I mean, we looked at all of our systems, and were our systems making us slower? And could we make our systems better? Could we actually apply some of those lean processes to our business? And could we actually, instead of taking 10 steps to do something, could we get it done in 8 steps? Could we get it done in 7 steps? So looking at how we did something. So again, in the construction industry, while health and safety is the most important thing, are there ways of doing the work that you do? Is it ways of doing it better and quicker?
No, I think that's brilliant, and I think I would hope that people aren't closed off to say that, oh well, it just won't work for us. You know, they need to look at, well, like you said, the walls around it to see, well, can we go over or under or sideways?
Yes.
Or through it. So thank you, Margaret. It was so great to talk to you, and I really I hope people got a lot out of it. I certainly did. What's the best way for people to contact you? Through LinkedIn, Margaret, if they have more questions, or the 4dayworkweek.ie, I think is the...
Yeah, 4dayweek.ie. You've caught me on the hop there. I wasn't prepared for that. So
I saw it on the slide earlier. I was like, I must say that.
Yeah, or I'm on LinkedIn as well. So you can certainly get me on LinkedIn, or margaret@icegroup.ie. I mean, I love this topic. I'd love everybody to have the benefit, every organisation and everybody who works in organisations to have the benefit of at least exploring the concept of a 4-day week. So Christelle, thanks a million for having me on. It was brilliant. And to Jenny and to Tom, who've been great in sort of keeping us all together. I'd like to thank them. But mostly, can I really do a big shout out to the people in ICE Group? You know, without them, we would have no story to tell. So I'm particularly proud of them and the work that they did. So thank you.
You should be. Thank you so much, everybody. And as always, Jenny will send down the copy of the webinar to everybody. And if I didn't answer all the questions, just send them on to me, and I'm happy to go through them with you, or send them on to Margaret as expert. But thank you so much, everybody, and hopefully talk to you all soon.